Welcome to AMP, the platform for age group multisport athletes to showcase their journeys. Hi, and thank you for joining us on episode 104 of AMP. This episode's slightly different. We haven't got a multi-sport athlete on. We have got somebody who's represented their country, but not in multi-sport. And that is David Kelleher, and he has represented Ireland in ultra running. And David got in touch through Instagram after listening to his fellow Irishman, Owen Bailey, who was on episode 101. And thought he'd get in touch and see if we'd be interested in listening to his story of how he got to represent Ireland in ultra running. And I thought, why not? I know a little bit about ultra running, never done any myself, but thought it would be interesting to hear how David got into it, for one, and just hear about his journey. Because I think ultra running, a very niche sport, a little bit like multi-sport, and I think you've got to be a bit unhinged to do that sort of distances. I hope David doesn't mind me saying so. I think you've got to be a bit unhinged to do multi-sport, to be honest. But there you go. So I hope you enjoy David's journey. He's also an author. He's written a book that he put together while he was out doing his long runs on the trails. And the book's entitled Stop, Breathe, Read. He's a big reader. I've not read the book yet. I am going to order it off the internet and give it a read, like I said in the podcast. So it'll be interesting to see what he's come up with. But a great chat, really nice guy, really enjoyed it. So I hope you do too. And the Olympics is finished. What we're going to watch now? I know, Tour de Femmes, that's just started. But what an Olympics, I really, really enjoyed it. And I think some of the outstanding moments, from my point of view, were definitely the triathlon. All three races for me were really, really exciting to watch. The ladies, because it was great to see Cassandra, being a French lady, win in her hometown and get that gold medal. And nice to see Beth Potter get the bronze. And a bit of a dark horse getting the silver. Great race. And then the men's, well, what a race. Hayden Wild definitely took it to Alex Yee on the run, and we thought it was all done and dusted. And then from nowhere, he just came back, and Alex took the gold. So it was really, really good to see. A really great race. And then on to the relays. Well, we were in it, we were out of it, we were leading, we were second, we were third. And even controversy at the end where we thought we'd got the silver, but actually looking at it, we did get the bronze. What a great spectacle for triathlon. I just thought it was amazing, and well done to everybody for taking part, and well done to GB for getting a bronze. Really enjoyed that. Tom Pidcock on the cycling, the mountain bike race where he got a puncture, and he literally got it on the last turn. If you haven't seen that, it's epic. And then he got booed by the French because he crossed the line and took the gold medal. But there you go. But what a race, and he did so well to come back from that puncture. He must have been about 2 minutes down, and it was a fantastic race. If you haven't seen that yet, like I say, head over to YouTube and search it in there for the highlights, because it's really worth watching the end. Still on cycling, the ladies road race TT and the men's road race TT were all good spectacles, although I would say that the road race was rather long at over 200 kilometres. It doesn't need to be that long of a race, especially if you want it to be a spectacle. They really need to sort that out, I think. But the end results were brilliant. Belgians, Remco Evenepoel got 2 goals. He won both the time trial and the road race. Fantastic racing. And again, he got a puncture with about a kilometre to go. He wasn't as cool as Tom, it's got to be said. But then he didn't really have that far to go, so it's understandable, especially what was on the line. Yeah, so some great road racing, cycling, and TT. Really enjoyed that. But there's been so much to watch. The athletics again was fabulous. Some fantastic performances from the 100 metres right the way through to the ladies' marathon. And yeah, it was just really fascinating to watch, and all the build up and the anticipation of rivalries. For example, the men's 1500 metres with Ingebrigtsen and Josh Kerr. And in the end, the American Cole won. It was just like you couldn't write it. So I really enjoyed the Olympics over the last 3 weeks. I am going to miss it, but we've got Super League coming back at the weekend, and all the athletes that were at the Olympics are travelling over to Boston in the United States to compete there. So that'll be something to look forward to. And we've got age group athletes over in Australia at the moment. They're travelling over as we speak. And I think the first race is on Thursday. So if you're over there, good luck. Hope the race goes well. And yeah, enjoy it because it's a fantastic experience. Okay, so on to the main event now. And hope you enjoy David's story. And I shall see you on the other side. So, like I said, welcome along to AMP. And if you'd just like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks very much, Richard, for having me on. So, my name is David Kelleher. First and foremost, I'm a family man. I have two beautiful children, Jack and Sheena, and I'm married to my very patient wife, Anne-Marie. Professionally, I'm a sales and distribution lead at a multinational insurance company, and I've been in this role for the last 10 years. I really enjoy it. Additionally, I'm an author. I published a book called Stop, Breathe, Read in 2022. It was sales ranked number one on the poetry chart, the Love Poems chart on Amazon UK in August 2023. And recreationally, I'm an ultra runner, and I represented the Republic of Ireland in the 21st World Masters Mountain Running Championships.
Cool. Well, we're going to definitely talk about your book. Obviously, we're going to talk about your ultra running and representing Ireland. But first and foremost, what did you do growing up as a kid, and whereabouts are you in Ireland?
Yeah, so I grew up in Rosserstrand, which is it's a beautiful blue flag beach resort down in the southeast of Ireland, not too far down the road from where Owen lives, just a bit down the road from him. I grew up in Rosserstrand. I subsequently moved, and I returned back here with my own family. So in secondary school, I was an average student. I competed in a bit of schools cross country, and I played a bit of rugby at my local club, Westwood Wanderers. And then I suppose going on to college, I did a degree and a master's in business. I completed my master's with a 2-1. I did continue to play rugby with Wexford whilst I was in college, albeit really uncommittedly. I studied hard to be a B student, and I really enjoyed the social aspect of college, and that kind of took priority. And then I guess leaving college, I was now in my 20s. I was really focused on my career. I guess in some ways, business is quite ambiguous when you finish a degree in it. There's loads of different avenues and branches you can go into. So I did touch on a lot of them. I went into accountancy first, then I went into banking, then went into finance and technology, and then I subsequently found my feet in insurance. So in my 20s, I was also dating my now wife of 9 years. So we were based in two different counties at the time, and I'd spent most of my weekends commuting to meet my wife. And building on that relationship was priority for me at the time, as I knew it was onto something special. I had spent most of my 20s focusing on my career, relationship, friends, and traveling. Secondary to that was rugby. And I've always been into running. And when I was in my 20s, it was just 5-10Ks across town, that sort of stuff. And pool swimming as well was always something I was into. But it was mainly just for keeping fit. I never said I'm going to run a 10K, or I never said I'm going to do any swimming events. It was just for like really just for my own mental clarity. I did those type of things. So then rolling on to my 30s, I guess, I was a little more established in my career. I got a couple of years experience under my belt in insurance. And I got married, we purchased our home, and we started having our children, Jack and Sheena. And at this stage, I did want to wholly commit to rugby. I really wanted to embrace it because I really felt throughout my 20s that I was kind of dipping my toe in and out of it, and I was never really there. So I had a couple of years and I said, really, I'm going to embrace it all, go to every training session, commit to it 100%, do the programs. And I did that. And I floated between the J1s and J2s. However, I did subsequently find my home in the J2s. And even at that, I was competing for my jersey. And so I committed to that for a couple of years. And then I got my first of two concussions. And it was, we were playing a match and I got a knee in the head. So I was taken off. And then subsequently, I was out for 6 weeks. And 6 weeks later, I came back from my first match and I got an elbow in the head. And my wife and parents had said, "Right, that's it. You're gone. You're done." So that was difficult to take, because I was so invested in it, and I really didn't know where to go from there. But I really enjoyed being fit and healthy, and like there was things I really enjoyed about committing to it, like the teamwork element. I loved the social aspect of it. I really loved the sense of community. But there was things I didn't like about it as well. I didn't really like the time commitment that I had to be there in someone else's time. Like you had to be there on a Wednesday night, you had to be there on a Friday night, and then on a Sunday we'd travel quite a lot. So I really didn't have the time to do that, so I struggled with it. And then additionally as well, personally, I didn't really like that. I could go out and I might not be very happy with my own performance on the pitch, but the team might win and everyone was happy. And I just felt, I took it very personally. I was like, I didn't play well. And I just wasn't able to get on board with that. But having hung up on my boots and having considered that, I did turn my eye to marathons, road marathons. That was initially. I had considered this in my 20s. However, I did brush it off because, I had this image in my head that people that did marathons were just people that had more stability in their lives, and they were kind of just had a sense that their priorities were all stacked up in a row and they were financially stable. I don't know, but that was the image I had of what an ultra runner, what a marathon runner is. So I started training for that, and that was in 2021. I had done a couple of halves up until that stage, and the particular marathon was the Waterford Viking Marathon. I completed it in just over 4 hours, so the time was by no means exceptional. It was slightly different though to a traditional marathon, I guess. There was a bit of off road on it and a bit of trail. So like relatively speaking, I was happy with my performance. And what I really loved about it was when I was at the finish line, my dad was there and my family was there, and it was a sense of celebration around it, and I was hooked to that feeling really, and I was like, right, what can I do next? So it really became what can I do next? So training for that event, I did go to a place called Ford Mountain down my way, and it's a beautiful mountain range and forest range. I was there this morning for a run, and the views are fantastic, and I really loved that element of it more so than running on the roads. I found the roads a bit more kind of laboursome. Like I felt as if it was effort, whereas when I was running in the trails, it just didn't feel like that. I just really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the idea of kind of being alone with nature, just kind of nearly running into the abyss, and no distractions, just being alone with yourself, your thoughts, and your breathing, your cadence, and I really zoned into that. And I suppose subsequently that's where I started exploring, podcasts. Really, reading is my thing, and so I started reading books around running and marathons and that sort of stuff. And I started going out to the trails, and what started off as a 15K run to the trails subsequently became, I was running 40K on my own on a Sunday morning, going through the trails, and I started having to plan for it. And I had to get a bit more technically smart about how I was going to manage it. And that included stuff like getting the right kit, making sure I had the right nutrition, um, making sure that I didn't injure myself, and that sort of stuff. So I started getting a lot smarter at it. And like, come here, apologies, I'm relatively new to it as well. I'm saying this, I'm only a baby when it comes to it, but really enjoyed it. And then an event came up in Wexford. Um, it was a mountain race, and it was organised through IMRA, which is the Irish Mountain Running Association. And again, I wasn't familiar with these at all at the time. And I subsequently joined IMRA as a member, just because I'd seen that these guys were quite organised and had these localised events, and I hadn't heard of anything like that before. So I was relatively new to that. And I'd seen on their website that the World Masters Mountain Running Championships had just been held in Taos in Austria. It was an 11-kilometer run with an elevation gain of in and around 1,800 meters. And quite naively, I'd said I could do that, so I contacted IMRA and just asked them, what's the process for me to be in a position to be wearing the green jersey next year, being in an event that's recognised through Athletics Ireland and recognised through IMRA. And IMRA really brought me through it. They'd said in this particular race, it is open to keen eligible mountain runners. There was a couple of technicalities, stuff like needed an athletic license and needed to have a valid passport, that sort of stuff. But it was quite easily ironed out, and then I at that stage I found myself training down in the Comer Mountains, down in between Waterford and Tipperary, it's nearly a step up, from the mountain I was on. And there was a couple of trail runs organised through IMRA before the event, so I went down and I ran with the IMRA crew, and my time wasn't it wasn't terribly out. I was managing to hold my own. So that then subsequently I found myself in the starting line, wearing the green singlet, and incredibly proud, surreal. It's hard to explain, but I got the bug. That's the start of the bug, right?
Yeah.
And it was just so surreal, and it just kind of it really just ignited something in me that I really want to get on board with this. And I think you'd said it yourself actually as well in one of your previous podcasts. There isn't many sports where you can be at the starting line with such elite athletes wearing your national jersey, and I was very lucky at the starting line of that event, because I was chatting to a guy called Andrew Douglas, who's a really well-established ultra runner now, based out of Team GB, and he's won numerous events throughout Europe, and he's a Hoka-sponsored athlete. So I chatted to him. Now, I didn't manage to hold on to him for very long when the race started, but yeah, really enjoyed it. So around the event itself, so it started off in Clonmel in County Tipperary, and then we quite literally went straight up into the Comer Mountains. It was there was over 800 athletes there from 29 different countries.
Wow.
In my own age category, from 35 to 39, there was just under 40 of us. Like in terms of the mix of athletes, I couldn't really say who stood out. There was a lot of Team GB. There was a number of Irish. There was a number of Germans, French, and Italians. And there was a couple from the US as well. But the race itself, it started off with a brutal climb, is the only way I could describe it. It was 1.5 kilometers just straight up the mountain, And then we were on to a bit of open mountain, so it became a bit of a race at that point, really. And then there was a very steep descent, and then we were going back up again through the mountains in a single trail format, and then again a descent down to the finish. For me, it was that was just getting my teeth cut, really, and I'd fallen in love with trails at that point and mountain running and the views, just everything. That you wouldn't. I couldn't imagine that you would have earphones in your ears in an event like that, because you're just absorbing absolutely everything, and um, you just have to be so careful with your footing, that sort of stuff. So you're entirely zoned in and focused on what you're doing. And I think I just said it earlier as well. Like when you're doing something like that, you're just left for your thoughts, your cadence, and your breathing, and that's all you're focusing on. And I was hooked at that point. Particularly actually, and I know you relate to this, more so when you started off wearing the GB jersey. I was running down the descent, and there was a guy called Stuart McNally running beside me, who was Team GB, and one of the spectators started shouting, come on, Ireland," and they were referring to me. It was just surreal, and I'm embarrassed to even say it actually, but yeah, it was a surreal experience. And like, I suppose, having done that, the passion is certainly there. And again, I'm an infant in the masters mountain running for sure. I would love to say that I have a lot more races in me with Ireland. So, like, what I did take away from that, however, was I did finish mid card. Like, I wasn't, there was the elite athletes for sure, like Andrew Douglas being one of them, and another guy called Craig Jacob as well from Team GB. That they did incredibly well. But what I took away from it was that I wasn't the fastest there, and to get to that speed, I think, I just didn't. I like, being quite aware of myself. I don't feel that speed was there, but I definitely had the endurance. I was a dog on the mountain, and I was competitive for sure. Um, so I started asking myself, right, what type of a runner am I? And again, ultra running, it's not something I'd ever heard of either. And then I think every runner at some point reads the book Born to Run by Christopher McDougall. And I read that, and he starts talking about ultra running, um, and then I read another book by a guy called, I'm not going to do any justice to his name now, but it's Adrian Finn, and he wrote a book called Rise of the Ultra Runner, and I absorbed it, and I started watching a couple of people on YouTube. A girl called Sarah Place from the UK. She's a fantastic ultra runner as well. So, like, hooked on the idea of that, and subsequently then just Googled Ultra Running Ireland, and the calendar was there in front of me. So it was, it was packed with ultras. So happy to go on to my first ultra now, or would you like me to stop talking? Or
I didn't want to step in and ask you any questions because you were on a roll and it was fascinating. I've got a question. I've got a question all the way back to your rugby, which was about your concussion.
About my
your concussion.
Oh yeah.
So what were the effects after your concussion that made you basically tell you that you needed to stop? The reason I asked this is two reasons. The first, because the concussion discussions just been brought to my attention by one of the Ineos cyclists, Luke Rowe, who was told basically to stop cycling because he'd banged his head on numerous occasions, and for the sake of his longevity and dementia and everything else, that he really should stop. And then my wife was out running, and we're not sure whether she blacked out or she tripped and banged her head, hence concussion. And she's been suffering over
Yeah.
the last must be month now. She's had CT scans and everything else, and it's all come back fine. And I just wondered what your thoughts were on that, and what process you went
Yeah.
through to help you come through it.
Yeah, like for me, the first one was the bigger of the two. So it was a training session. We were out on a Wednesday night, and it was my own fault for sure. I ran into someone, and I their knee hit me in the face, and I was blacked out, for about maybe 10 seconds, and I got up, and no one noticed it. It was kind of like, it was a match amongst ourselves, a training session match. So no one noticed it, and I kind of nearly shook it off at the time, and I got in the car, drove home, and my wife was in the house, and I started physically getting sick and getting dizzy, and I kind of rubbed it off as just having a bit of a bug, but I was aware that I did back out. So I got up the next morning, and my wife brought me to the doctor, and the doctor had said, as you called it there, he'd said to me, it sounds like you had a concussion. You have to be very careful around that sort of stuff. It can cause stuff like dementia. It scared the hell out of me, But he did also say, that it does happen in rugby, and you're not the first person that it's happened to. So it kind of nearly felt as if I was unlucky, but there's no issue of going back again. That's what I taken from it. And what I did was I subsequently called my own coach and said, listen, I probably won't be at training this week because I had a concussion. And to be fair to my coach, he understood that there was a protocol around that I didn't.
Yeah.
And he had said, listen, you're out for 6 weeks. And
that's really good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was very frustrating at the time now.
Yeah. But, really, that's impressive, that level for him to turn around to you and say, that 6 weeks.
Yeah, no, for sure. Looking back on it now, it was brilliant. And he certainly did me a favor because what I wasn't aware of at the time was at that point, I just became a bit more susceptible to the concept of concussions because I was 6 weeks out, and I did a running around myself. It wasn't a training or anything. And then it subsequently went back, and we were playing a match locally against New Ross, down our way, and I was on the field, I'd say about 15 seconds, and I got another knock, and again blacked out, and same process again. It wasn't as severe as the first time, like I didn't physically get sick or anything like that, but I knew I blacked out, and I wanted to go back to GP again just to understand, because it didn't feel as if it was as hard a knock either. So I just wanted to understand what the story was of that. And the GP had said, listen, you should probably consider playing another sport. And yeah, like at that point as well, my wife and my parents were saying, listen, you're done now. Like I was 36 as well.
Yeah.
I wasn't 25, and so but yeah,
Oh, well done for heeding all the advice, because I know how difficult it must have been to take yourself away from all the things that you just said that you really enjoyed about the sport that you'd been in for such a long time. It's
yeah,
commendable. So well done for that. Going forward now, to your Irish representation, could you just repeat for me how
yeah.
the process is for you to qualify to represent Ireland in this Masters? What did you have to do? Was there a particular race that you had to go to, or did you have to put a time in?
No, so for that particular race, it was so when I'd seen it, all the photographs and stuff like that from Telstra in Austria, which is where it was held the year before, I contacted Imra, and I'd said, how do I get myself in a position where I'm wearing the Ireland jersey next year and it's recognised by Athletics Ireland? And their response to me was, it's open to all keen mountain runners that feel that they would be able to do the event. so I ticked that box, and then it was, you need an athletic license. Now I listened to a couple of podcasts and stuff like that with Team GB, and it seems like, you need to be in leagues, and need to be in top of the leagues and stuff like that. Like, the barrier to entry certainly wasn't that high for that event. Now, for sure, it's different for other events, which I'm happy to chat to in a moment. Other Irish events, but that particular one was, throw your hat in the throw your throw your hat in the ring and see how you get on.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that for me. That's where the bug came into effect for it. So
No, I mean, that's a great starting point, isn't it? To get people involved and included, for something like that, where you have to spend a lot of time. I mean, you don't go into ultra running just, on a whim, do you? You've got to be
no,
quite dedicated. And so going into you did your marathon, then you've done your ultras. So how's the training gone? How do you fit it in around busy working life,
yeah,
and also you've got two kids and your wife that you've got to fit your training in around that. So that's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is, are you now in any club, or are you coached, or are you doing it all on your own back? Two questions.
yeah, yeah. So for sure, like the finding the time is difficult. That is a real challenge for me. I've two young kids. Jack is 7 and Sheen is 3, but like, and then I travel a bit with work as well, so it's difficult to find it. But what I would say is that, I am quite committed and dedicated, and for me personally, this is my selfish time. This is my time. It's not of course, my family are number one in my life, and their happiness, safety, and security is number one to me. But the way I see it is I run to the mountains to find the best version of myself.
Sure.
And that's the version of myself that I bring back to my family and to work. So I see that it's quite important to me to do that. So I make the time. I'll get up. Sunday mornings are a good one for me. I get up quite early. I can drive out to the trails. It's about 15 minutes from here, and that's my one big run of the week. And I think anyone that's into ultra running will kind of say that you need to be in that one big run, and then the rest of it becomes kind of more intense kind of training. Like, I do a bit of swimming during the week. I'm not going to pretend that it's great now, particularly when I'm speaking to a triathlete. But I kind of aim to do 30 minutes in the pool, trying to aim to get 200 meters in that 30 minutes, which probably sounds very amateur at your level. But then, it's just short stint stuff. Like, I play soccer as well once a week, and I do a bit of kickboxing. Actually, I picked up the kickboxing after the World Championships, because it became very apparent to me that there's this explosiveness that some of the runners had that I didn't have. Like, I can maintain a speed, but to get that consistent cadence increase, he just needs an explosive power. And so I got into the kickboxing as a result of that, and I feel that's really helped. There is a couple of events coming up that I'm going in on the trials for, and I'd love to get onto the teams. And so it's been my focus now from an international perspective to build up my speed, albeit I am doing ultras in the background. But I feel they're nearly like two different animals as far as I'm concerned. That explosive power is, as my training has been going, is just working on the core, working on the legs, that sort of stuff. But time is difficult for sure. And I have a very patient wife, and I've good time management. I'd say, it's early morning starts.
Yeah.
But then to your second question around coaching and stuff like that, so we have a fantastic club down here in Wexford. It's the Wexford Marathon Club. It's run by a girl called Lorraine McMahon, who has represented Ireland in the world in ultra running events. And they subsequently did an ultra in June this year, and I competed in it. it was a 6 hour ultra event and really well organized. So I am a member in our local gym, and all of these guys are in there, and so I'm chatting to them all the time. And it's really important, I think, to be rubbing shoulders with conversations that are with people that are talking about that, because you don't find it anywhere else. It's kind of nearly it's certainly nichey.
Triathlon, multisport, duathlon, aquabike, aquathon, nichey, very nichey. Triathlon's probably obviously the most obvious one that people will get an idea of what it is.
Yeah,
The Olympics and the Brownlees and stuff like that, especially in the UK. Ultra running, yeah,
it's nichey. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
really nichey.
Yeah, so it isn't like, I got into it by reading books of people that were doing it. That's kind of how we got into that headspace. But I suppose once you're in there, you just find these people. I think you kind of nearly recognize each other in the gyms, in the gym and stuff like that. And I'm sure you can relate to it. You kind of know that someone that's into these endurance things, you can just see it. And so I chat to them quite a lot. Now I am reluctant and I have been reluctant to get into a club, and because for me, like it is about going into the mountains myself and battling my own demons without sounding too dark, but kind of going out there and just kind of descaling the day, and that's the way I see it. And I've done the club thing. That's how I've committed everything. I wore the jersey. There was, without sounding too dramatic, I bled on the jersey, and I've done that, and now I just want to do it for myself and be quite selfish about it. So my coach essentially has been having conversations with lads in the sauna who are ultra runners and reading books and going onto YouTube, that sort of stuff. That's my coach.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm not coached either, and I've never had a proper like one-to-one coach. I am part of a club. We do have coaches for the club, but yeah, I'm like you. I self-learned, self-taught, and I'm not saying that if you got a coach, because I've had lots of people on here that have had coaches and it's took them to the next level. But yeah, I'm like you. I like to just go out and do my own thing. Don't worry about anything else. I train a lot with Kate, my wife. Um, that's it. Really, so I get it. I get it. Totally get it. And as when you're talking about going in the forest and you know slaying the demons, I used to do a Aikido.
Okay.
And I used to go off on a Tuesday and a Friday night. And I remember the sensei saying, "You come on the mat, forget about everything else. You just empty your teacup."
Yeah, that's exactly
Same
it.
sort of thing. So it's like when you go out for a run, you just forget about everything, empty it, and in your case, come up with stories for a book that you've written. Did you like that segue? See how I've led you
Oh
in?
yeah, I loved it. Yeah. It came in beautifully. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So that's my next question then. I, like I said to you earlier, I didn't see until the very last when I reread your email that you'd put the bottom very humbly. You'd put at the bottom about writing this book. So tell us a little bit about that and how that came about and what it's about.
yeah, so the book is called it's called Stop, Breathe, Read, and really how the book came about was like it was it was just a collection of thoughts, right? Like I find it quite cathartic to go out and run in the trails, and I really I process out my thoughts. If in work I've had a difficult conversation with someone, or if something, if I've had a confrontation or whatever, something that I just didn't readily know how to deal with at the time, I did just instinctively go out to the trails and lace up my shoes, get the water bottle, and I just focused on that one thought and how it made me feel, and I just spent the run processing it out, just so it would make sense to me and I'd understand it the next time, and that's pretty what it was. I
So can
did
you
that.
give us an example of a thought?
Yeah, so for like like again, without going too deep, kind of stuff like um kind of self-worth and stuff like that. You could question, was I good enough for that type of stuff. and you go out and you just try and process it out and try and take away all the distractions and play at the thought and that's kind of where it came from, you know. And the book is prefaced on two pillars. One of them is the pillar of Stoicism. I'm really keen into philosophy, and I don't know if you're familiar with Stoicism, but the
Yes, yeah.
concept of Stoicism. Oh, okay, yeah. So you're familiar with it.
I've
Yeah.
read
So
I've read a couple of books actually, and there's a guy on again Instagram that I follow, and I can't for the life of me. Have I got his?
Ryan Holiday. Ryan
Yeah,
Holiday.
that's it, Ryan Holiday. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So no, like it's a fantastic philosophy. I feel, and I'm not trying to. Everyone else has their own views, so I'm not trying to, you know,
it's
find
just.
your own way.
I just think, yeah, it's written by back in the day, and he's regurgitating all these Seneca thoughts, but a lot
That's
of it
it.
is like common sense, isn't it? If we, like you just said, if you stop to breathe and actually take a beat, then yeah, it's just common sense.
Yeah, and that's what it is. You know, like the concept around stoicism is, you know, just to not get overthrown with emotions and just, you know, take a breath and be yourself. And um, yeah, as you said, you know, it was an ancient Greek and Roman philosophy or ideology. And you talked about Seneca there. He had fantastic books around how to control anger, how to that sort of stuff. And it's accountability. That's what stoicism is, as far as I can see it.
Hmm.
It's just having values, knowing what they are, knowing your purpose, and being accountable entirely for your actions. And like I think in some ways, you know, the disciplines around writing are very similar to the disciplines that you would need in ultra running. You know, like you need endurance, you need resilience, you need to be a bit adventurous for sure. You know. I don't know with too many lads that are ultra runners who played rugby that write books. So you do need to run into the abyss a tiny bit, and that's what the book is kind of. It's stoicism is one pillar, but then for sure it's kindness as well, right? Kindness to me is a superpower, and I don't mean being nice. I mean being kind, and I believe being kind is doing difficult things for yourself and doing different things, doing things for others as well that you love. And those two pillars, I think, are just really important to me, and they really steer the direction of my life. And so I processed all these thoughts and brought them back to these two pillars, and that's essentially what the book is. It's a book of thoughts, you know. Um, but yeah, no, I appreciate the plug in.
Absolutely, no, I'm definitely going to go out and see if I can get a copy. You'll have another
Yeah.
sale there ticked off.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I definitely think that there's a real link anyway to the two of them. And
Mm.
you know, there's a fascinating book as well called "What I Think About When I Think About Running," and I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the guy's name now. He's Chinese, and it's so apologies. I'm not going to even try and attempt it. But what I think about when I think about running, and it's a fantastic book. You know,
I've
and
not read it, but I have heard of it. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm going to make a note of that because that'll be another one.
yeah. Oh no, it's definitely a good read. You know, and I think everyone becomes a little creative when they're out, and you know, if you're listening to your cadence and your breathing, you just you do start drifting.
I've just got a book here. Have you read that Running with the Kenyans?
I haven't, no, but that's Adrian and Finn. So he wrote
Yeah.
the other book I was talking about.
Right. Yeah. I thought I recognised the
Yeah,
author. Really good
yeah,
book. Really good
yeah.
book. Yeah.
No, thank you for the recommendation. That's definitely on my to read
Yeah.
list.
So for those of you listening, I've just showed him Running with the Kenyans by, I can't even pronounce his first name. Go on.
Adrian and Finn.
Adrian and Finn. Yeah, an
Yeah,
Irishman had to pronounce that name because I
yeah,
can't. My dad would disown me because he's Irish. Oh, he was.
yeah.
Um,
You were saying it's from Clare.
yes, yeah, County Clare, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I look forward to reading that. I mean, fantastic story, really interesting, and Have you got anything else to add? So, I mean, I've got a few questions, a few quick fire questions coming up. Have you got anything else to add to the story, or is that
Yeah,
about?
like only just saying, like, I'm relatively new to this to the ultra running sports. Like, there is a couple in the calendar, one in September now. It's a 48-kilometer run through the Wicklow Mountains.
Hmm.
I did it last year, and it's a beast, and I'm really hoping to get a bit of time on that one. But actually, what's really interesting about Adrian and Finn as well, on that book is, sorry, in the book I read, was that he talks about a girl called Hilary Allen. And last year when I did the ultra marathon in Wicklow, I was at the starting line and Hilary Allen was standing beside me.
Wow.
She's an American ultra runner, so I was chatting to her, and it was lovely. And she's a Brooks sponsored athlete, and it was really cool. Again, I didn't last very long running beside her, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a
Small
small world.
world. Small
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because on the last episode that's just gone out today, I had a lady called Nicola Dawson who I met over at the Multisport European Championships in Portugal earlier on the year, and
Okay.
she's into ultras up in Scotland, and she's got a website called epicrunning.co.uk, and
Right.
also she's on Instagram, so she might be
Yeah.
worthwhile showing because that's her bag. She loves doing ultras. Um, yeah, so that was quite
Um,
interesting. So
with,
I've just thought about it. I've had two ultra people in succession on
yeah.
the podcast, which is
You could be branching out.
yeah, branching out into a separate podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for
Cool.
sure. I'll definitely listen to that. I'll definitely look her up. And ultras in Scotland, I'm sure,
Yeah,
are brutal.
yeah,
Northern
yeah,
Scotland
yeah.
is Highlands.
Yeah, she made me tired just listening to her, to be honest.
Yeah, it'd be brutal, I'd imagine. But
Brilliant.
other than that, then, so like just in terms of the Irish running, um, there's a couple in the calendar. They're qualifying events. So the British and Irish Masters one now in November is in Northern Ireland, in Belfast, and the Triathlon are in October. So I've been building up the speed to that, and
Yeah,
sheepishly saying that I'd like to get onto that team. So we'll see.
yeah. And what about next year's Masters then? Where will that be
Yeah,
at?
so the World Masters Mountain Running Championships this year is in San Frank. That's the really strong Irish team going over to that this year. There's it's headed up by a guy called Turlock O'Connor. But me personally, I want to focus on the British and Irish cross country, aka in Northern Ireland this year. So um, I kind of under no illusions it'll be difficult. I'm in a newer age category now as well, so I'm hoping that works to my benefit.
Yeah.
I'm not the 35 to 39 anymore, so hoping that works to my benefit. It's an 8K run, but that the trial for that is October. The run is in November, and then the
And
European.
how long is that?
It's 8 kilometers,
8 kilometers.
so it's speed. Yeah, it's trail running speed. So I got into kickboxing, that sort of stuff, to try and build up that explosiveness. And again, there's going to be some serious runners at that starting line
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well in the
I
trials. So
imagine, yeah. That's a totally different
we'll
animal, isn't it, really?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. It'd
Yeah.
be nice to get onto it though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, good luck with it. I hope you succeed. And are you on any social medias? Are you on Instagram or Facebook or
I'm on Instagram. Yeah, so
you just want to
David
give a
Kelleher.
plug, give a plug to your Instagram handle for people out there
Yeah, for sure.
who don't follow you?
Yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, David Kelleher on Instagram. Um, I'll be the guy wearing the Irish jersey. So,
Well, I'm sure people will look you up and follow you. Uh, absolutely. So I've got a few quick fire questions just to finish off, and then I'll let you go and enjoy the rest of the day. Um, I know we've sort of like touched on this, but when you go out, you've said you listen to um, sometimes podcasts, sometimes you don't listen to anything. Do you listen to music at all?
Sometimes.
And so if you do, what is your go-to tune?
Oh, it has to be Imagine Dragon, Thunder.
Magic Bands. Which song in particular?
Thunder by
Thunder.
Imagine Dragon.
Good,
It's a fantastic song.
yeah, good tune, good tune, good band, really good band.
Oh, amazing, amazing. Yeah, yeah.
Excellent. What's your favourite bit of kit?
It has to be. I don't know if you've got this board, but it has to be my glasses, running glasses.
Right.
For each different ultra that I do, I like to have a different pair of Oakleys. Um,
Wow.
yes,
That's a luxury.
yeah. Well, like I think you said it before. With the triathlon training, like the gear and stuff like that is really expensive. And that's what makes mountain running actually a lot more involving in that. The barrier to entry isn't really high. You need to get yourself a good pair of trail running shoes.
And what do you
Um,
wear?
I wear Nike Pegasus.
Right.
I've had about 5 or 6 pairs of them now, and they're far and wide the best on the market. I've
Are
tried a
they a
couple of plastic.
specific trail shoe?
They're specific trail running shoes, yeah. But they're brilliant, because they need to be firm shoes, because on the trails it's very easy for people to twist their ankles and stuff like that, and it's really important to do the research on that and get the shoe that fits you. Brooks is another one that has fantastic mountain running shoes as well, but for me, it's the Nike Pegasus are the best.
The only reason I asked is 2 weekends ago, I haven't been racing at all because I've been injured for about 15 months, various things. And 2 weekends ago, I decided to ease myself back into it and go and do a trail, off-road, cross-country duathlon, sprint duathlon.
All right.
I've currently got a pair of Nike trail shoes that I've had. They're ready for the bin, to be honest, but they were as good
Yeah.
as I could come up with for that sort of environment. So yeah, so Pegasus, I'll look up to that.
Yeah, I'll certainly have it. And what's great with the Pegasus as well is you end up throwing them out because you get sick of looking at them. It's not that they wear like they'll last forever. So as I say, the barrier to entry is quite low. I know with the triathlons and stuff, you need really nice bikes, and you need the suit is really expensive as well.
Yeah,
I'd love to. Like the barrier to entry in mountain running is, get yourself a nice pair of shoes.
and a nice
You
pair
don't
of
need
Oakley.
a nice pair. But well, that's the higher barrier. That's the premium of mountain running.
I'm gonna ask Mrs. C if I can have a new pair of Oakleys every time.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See what she says.
Yeah, no, you have to ask very nicely for that one.
True. Your short and your long-term goals. So I guess we've covered your short-term goals, but looking further, like maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years, in
Yeah,
the future, what are you looking to achieve? What would you like to achieve? You've already hit the main one, and that's I can see the Irish jersey in the background hung up, which
yeah,
looks very nice. I've got a few in my cupboard that I keep threatening to get done like that. So you've
yeah,
inspired me there. So
yeah.
longer term, what do you want to achieve?
Well, I would love to certainly wear the Irish jersey again. I know I'm going into trials now in November, in October, but there is also the European mountain running, European cross country mountain running masters in Sicily next year
Oh,
in May.
nice.
So I'm going to be aiming to go to that. But failing that, I will be at the World Masters Mountain Running Championships next year. Really, it's just to start getting caps. I've kind of dipped my toe in it, and I want to get a bit more, a couple of more runs in it. But then also as well, I think, any now maybe this is a bit of self sabotage to myself, but I think any ultra runner that's worth their salt has to be focusing on the big ones. There's big brand ultras out there,
Hmm.
the likes of UTMB, Marathon des Sables, yeah. So like they're the kind of the touching the stars type stuff. And as you touched on earlier, time management is so important for that sort of stuff, more so than anything else. And so I'd love to do one of those. There's actually a really good one as well in Wales called the Dragon's Back, which
Oh,
is
yes, I've heard of that, yeah.
Oh, you've heard of it. It's an
Yeah.
absolute beast. It's widely regarded as the toughest mountain race on earth. So, yeah, if I got if I got Marathon des Sables, they've a lovely one in Fuerteventura actually, rather than the main one, the legendary one in Morocco. But Marathon des Sables in Fuerteventura or the Dragon's Back would be my goal,
Cool.
long term goal.
That the Sables, it just reminded me. Have you come across Fiona Oakes?
Fiona Oakes.
Yeah.
No.
She's ultra runner. She's got a film out, and basically she's on all the social medias as well. Ultra runner, and basically she runs to fund her. She's a vegan, so she runs to fund the farm that she's got because she's got all these animals that she's took in and looks after. Incredible story, incredible film. If you can catch it. I can't remember what the film's called, but if you Google her, it'll come up. And she's so inspiring. She's got one of her knees. She's got no kneecap.
Oh right, and she's an ultra runner. Jeez.
Yeah, she's phenomenal. She's a machine, absolute machine. But really good story. So that'll be one for right up your street.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'll soak that up.
Cool. Well, listen, it's been lovely to meet you, and good luck with everything that you do. And I think the main thing is just to enjoy it. And I'll keep tabs on your Instagram profile to see what you're up to. And yeah, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
No, it isn't. Thank you. Pleasure.
Thanks, David.
Cheers. Thanks very much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
And thanks once again to David for coming on the podcast. Much appreciated. It was great to hear your journey, and doubly great because it was something different. But I think lots of similarities between ultra running and multisport. For example, the dedication that you put into it, the time and consistency, and the sheer will of love of what you do to try and get that coveted Irish jersey. And I think that transcends to both multisport and ultra running. So yeah, really enjoyed that. Hope you do well in everything that you've got planned. And like I say, I'll be following you on Instagram. And just on that, David's Instagram account is O_CEILEACHAIR12. I'm not really sure how you pronounce that, but yeah, that's his Instagram. And don't forget to check out his book, which is Stop, Breathe, Read. So give that a look. And that's about it for this episode. Thank you once again for joining us and taking your time out to give us a listen. Please spread the word of the podcast around to like-minded people. And if you're an age grouper and you'd like to come on the podcast, please do get in touch. You can email us at agegroupmultisportpodcast@gmail.com, or you can DM us on the socials, and our Instagram handle is amp_1967. Our Facebook page is ampgb, and X, we are on Age Group Multisport Podcast. So yeah, if you want to get in touch or come on the podcast, yeah, drop us a line. We've also got a YouTube account, and there's videos on there, primarily now of me training and just vlogging basically. And all the other podcasts are up there as well, so, and some shorts. So please go over there, have a look, subscribe, and yeah, just spread the word of the Age Group Multisport Podcast, and that would be much appreciated. So until next time, don't forget, stay safe, keep training, and love the process.